you really do want to keep it simple. You don't want to jump into, hey, I'm going to do and get distracted, as you said, like with all the shiny objects. And that's kind of how I did build from 0 to a million. I kept it very simple. I went with what was working. And now that I have a lot more experience as a seller, I think that's why I'm so excited, because I can play around with stuff and see how it fits specifically into my current brands, because it's not a one size fits all.
Lunch with Norm. Lunch with Norm. Lunch with Norm. Lunch with Norm.
Hey everyone, it's Norm Farrar, aka the Beard Guy here, and welcome to another Lunch with Norm, the e-commerce and Amazon FBA podcast. Today, we've got a great episode. We're going to be discussing 0 to $1 million in 12 months, strategies that led to a successful exit in 2022. So we're going to be talking to an owner of a brand that actually did this. So this is real life and there's no exaggeration. This is exactly what happened. We're going to be talking about her story and how she exited, the biggest challenges that our guests faced while building her brand, and lessons that she learned in her business and how to apply it to your brand. So welcome to another Lunch with Norm, the e-commerce and Amazon FBA podcast. All right, like I mentioned, 0 to $1 million in 12 months, the strategies that led to a successful exit back in 2022. Our guest is an Amazon seller and coach at AMZ Insiders, a fearless sellers podcast host, and owner of 3D Walls by Design. She created 3D Walls by Design in 2014 and has outfitted several well-known companies' walls in Austin, Texas, and beyond. She helps people start and scale her own Amazon business, from finding the first product to sell online to selling your brand. And I'm talking to first-time guest Joie Roberts. But before we get to Joie, let's have a word from the sponsor. I want to thank Jeff Schick Legal for sponsoring this episode of Lunch with Norm. You've probably heard on the podcast about Amazon suspensions. They're very real. It can happen at any time. And when it does happen, how do you get out of it? How does the little guy like you and me get out of these suspensions without paying an arm and a leg in legal fees? This is where Jeff Schick Legal is here to help. For a very low monthly retainer, for only $89, get access to Amazon attorney Jeff Schick. That's right. You can sit back, relax, enjoy that cup of coffee while listening to the Lunch with Norm podcast, knowing that you have an advocate and a partner in your business success. But wait, just mention Lunch with Norm and receive 50% off the first 2 months. Get the protection you need and visit jeffschick.com today. That's JEFFSCHICK.com. Now let's get back to the show. So we're going to have Joie on, and just a second, she's going to come on right now. Sit back, relax, grab a cup of coffee. Joie, do you have your coffee?
I have water.
Okay, water.
Got to be hydrated.
That's too healthy for me. Anyway, how are you?
I'm well. Thank you for having me on. This is awesome.
This is great. And I love going out to events. I always tell people I like going out to events. And I've known Jamie over the years, and I've seen you before, and it was kind of a, what's up? And then we finally get to, really sit down and start talking. And it was, wow, I really gotta have you on the show. But we also got to know each other and did a lot of fun things, like Puerto Rico. Wasn't that incredible?
That was going out.
Oh my gosh. So just, again, one of the things you love about events is that you break bread with people and you get to know them. It's not just the event and you're talking, you're listening to a speaker or making notes. You actually get to know people. And that's one of the biggest things that you can do. And so we were able to do that with Mr. Davidson there, who's also been on the podcast before. But one of the things I got to see on this, on the cruise, the online seller cruise, is that you had a really great story. And, Kelsey and I got talking. We just said, oh, we got to have you on the podcast. So I think that's where we're going to start, is your really great story.
All right. I can just take it away.
You can just take it
and
away. I will be interrupting you. I will be going down different rabbit holes. I'm going to do everything possible to make you uncomfortable. Not
Please
okay.
do. Please do. I would like to see if you can make me
No,
uncomfortable.
no. This is such a casual podcast. So yeah, let's talk about your story and what happened.
Yeah, and talking about being uncomfortable, I think a lot of my selling journey from 0 to my million mark in 12 months, I was really uncomfortable and I had to suck it up and be like, I'm going to be comfortable being uncomfortable. And that's one of the reasons I like to share my story. I actually tried selling in 2017. I had just given birth to my son and I had tried this baby product that was a strap that attaches to a stroller so your baby doesn't roll away from you. And like many Amazon sellers that I've talked to over my journey, it just wasn't the right product for me to sell. It didn't work out, but it didn't discourage me from selling on Amazon. I did take a break and I was like, okay, that was a bad product. So then in 2020, when all of COVID had shut down, and you said in my introduction that I do own 3D Walls by Design. It's a wallpaper company, and I was running that at the time. And when COVID hit, there's no walls to outfit, right? Because all the buildings closed down. So I thought, okay, this is my opportunity to get back into selling on Amazon. I have the time. And I was thinking, I'm going to do this much better this time because my first product completely messed up the margin. There just wasn't enough. I think when I sold that product, I maybe was taking home, I don't know, 4 or 5 on like the highest end, maybe $7, which for me didn't leave a lot of space for what I would have needed to do to compete in the baby space and also explain what this like random strap that I created did. So now I thought, okay, I'm going to sell. I have no idea what I was going to sell, but I wanted to make $100 per unit sold. And I'm talking $100 into my pocket, not
Top
800.
line. Yeah.
Yes, not top line, not that. Like I wanted to, no matter what I did, take home $100. And that was really where I led with, and I just had to find a product. And I also thought, you know what? I don't really even know how to sell properly. And I knew there was a lot that went into selling. And as a current business owner, I thought I didn't want to make a ton of mistakes and take years to get my business ramped up. So I started looking through Amazon connections and communities to find a mastermind. And I ended up finding who you were talking about, Jamie Davidson with AMZ Insiders. And he became my coach and my mentor. And those who know Jamie, a lot of people do, but he is a top 100 seller and he is a 9-figure seller. So that's like over $100 million of products sold on Amazon. And I watched some of his trainings, was like, all right, I think this guy should be my mentor. So that was the start of my journey. I joined the coaching program. I knew I wanted to do at least $100 per unit, and I just needed a product. Sounds simple, right?
Well, it's pretty tough, I think.
It was tough. And people were telling me I was a little crazy to be jumping on Amazon thinking I was going to make $100 per unit.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, I'm going to do it. And one of the traits of successful sellers that I now know is just deciding you're going to do it and continuing to take action.
Being decisive, right? Being able to just, like you said, take action. Intentions will not put dollars in your pocket.
Exactly. I love that. Yes. Good intentions, but it really does take the action. And Norm, because when I present it in front of you, I like to put up my big slide that says, I like my margins big.
Yeah. And you know what? I heard, do you know Ernest Epps?
I've heard the name.
He's an incredible guy. And one of the things that he does, not on Amazon, but he says, you basically go big or go home. Why do you want to put in, and this was my mistake too, I started selling single bars of soap. And at the end of the day, I was making a buck, buck and a quarter. And I realized, wow, business model is flawed. And here I'm looking at Ernest, and I met him at an event, and he goes, I don't touch anything unless it's $1,000 to $1,500. And I sat there and I went, what am I doing with $10 soap?
Right.
Now I bundle it, and it's a little bit more than that. I make more than $1, but I had to figure out that business model. But what you're saying right now is so true. You have to come out with a bigger dollar item, but $100 profit at the end of the day, that's a tough one to find.
It is tough. And the other spot that you get in is why the right product for me to sell is not the right product for everybody to sell, is because you need a lot more upfront for inventory.
Right.
Yeah. So that was, that was a scary part. And we'll get into this in a little bit, but like fear, I spend a lot, and that's why my podcast is called Fearless Sellers, because of fear. And I knew that I was going to need at least minimum $25,000 for my first inventory purchase. And I said, well, this is really stressful and I'm scared to do the $25,000. But it goes back to, I made this decision, I'm going to follow through, and I wanted it. Like, that gut feeling where you just want your product. Now everybody's like, what is this product and how did she find it?
Yeah. And you were talking about something very early on when we just got on, and that was being uncomfortable, that gut feeling, that feeling of fear. And you're just describing that right now where, man, this is, do I go with it? But you had that gut instinct. So interesting that you just plowed forward with it. How did you know? Like, how did you know in your gut that this could work?
It was a trusting myself that I had the drive to make it work. And I was doing what I could with the skills I had. So in my corporate life and with my wallpaper company, I was used to selling high dollar luxury products that had higher margins. So it was a comfortable space for me to think, hey, I should be making $100 per unit because I make more than that when I sell wallpaper. And so that was really what kept me pushing forward, because I'd already been selling expensive stuff, just never on Amazon. And Amazon is its own complete beast. And honestly, Norm, some of it is like, I trusted myself. I wanted to do it. And maybe I just didn't know any better at the time. I knew enough, but I didn't know too much on the negative side.
Did you just jump into this? So you saw a product, you went, wow, I know I could sell this. Or did you go through a validation process?
Good question. So working in the design world, I knew I wanted my $100 per unit in my pocket. So I reached out to everybody I knew in the industry who was making stuff. So in the design world, it's called a fabricator. So I called them up. I said, can I take a tour, see what you're working on, take you to lunch and just see what's going on? And I got there, and one guy had a brand new CNC machine where you can cut through metal. And he was making these beautiful, intricate doors. And I was like, wow, I could sell those doors. Like, I know all about design. I could sell the doors. And I realized they're expensive. They probably hit my price point, but I can't lift them. Like, you can't see me, but like, I'm very small. Like, I could not lift the door. So I thought, all right, we're not going to do the doors. I was like, what else do you have? And then I went to the next person. I was like, what are you working on? What are your side projects? What are your hobbies? Because these are people with machines who are making stuff because they're inventors and they like to do it. So one of the guys was making completely unrelated product to what I was selling, but I saw his skill and I thought, okay, I am going to partner with this manufacturer on stuff that he wants to sell. It was the stuff he wanted to sell was like kind of high-end fishing stuff. So I was like, okay, that sounds cool. But then really when we got into it, I started the validation process and at that point, the software I was using was Viral Launch, and now I use Helium 10. But really, it doesn't matter what software you use. It's just you let it assist you so that you understand search volume. And I didn't go down the rabbit hole. I didn't overanalyze. I made a quick spreadsheet, and then I went back to the supplier and I was like, okay, these are actually products that I think we should come up with and and jump. So it was not in fishing at all. It was in the outdoor sports category. And it was just kind of using the people that I knew and the validation tools.
It's interesting that you said don't overthink it. I've seen so many people spend thousands of dollars on courses, go to a ton of events, and I know these people. Some of them are friends that have been a year and a half, 2 years, and they haven't got anything on the water yet because everything's got to be perfect. Everything's got to line up. All of a sudden, there's a new shiny object that's going to validate their decision that they just validated 10 other times. And it's not going to get you. You're going to pay your Amazon tax. And somewhere down the line, you're going to make a mistake. You'll learn for the second launch or the third launch. I've launched a ton of products and I'm still learning, but you'll never get to learn. But yours is a bit different story, though. You're a bit more of a risk taker than I would have been, because I would have said, I got to put all this money into inventory. You know exactly what you're looking for. For me and for a lot of sellers, it might be, okay, I've got this amount of cash flow. I know what to work with. Let's see if this works. And then take it to the next, the next product and the next product. Like with your products, I don't know what they were selling for on Amazon, but even to get that $100 product, like you said at the beginning, you've got to have some cash flow.
Yes, definitely. And I had my own business at the time, and I had a little bit saved up, and I put some of the inventory on credit cards. But I've also had this mindset of it's easier to go find $10,000 than save $10,000. So I was telling myself, okay, if this $25,000 completely blows up in my face, I will be able to sell these products somehow, right? There's other platforms, there's eBay, there's garage sales. I don't know. That was just chalking it up in my head to make myself feel better. And to answer your question, what I was selling it for, out of the gate, I sold at $189 was the lowest price I ever sold, because when you launch your product, you sell. But I was still making that close to that $100 that was my goal. Sometimes I dip below it.
Yep.
And then also with like PPC and some outside advertising stuff, it would dip a little below, but not much. Like I was trying to be very stringent with my $100. By the time I sold my business, which was in March of 2022, that the business sold, the products were selling just under $400, because
Jeez.
in 2021 there was the supply and demand. So I did get lucky, and I think all Amazon sellers at some point in their selling, they get lucky and then you have setbacks. So it doesn't necessarily matter that it was 2021. That was just the circumstances for my price. I also had major inventory issues because it was so hard to get stuff over from China in 2021.
Did you know from the get-go you were going to have an exit, and when that exit would be or who you would sell it to?
Yeah, good question. I told myself going in that this was going to be 2 years, and that was my goal. I'm going to run this specific business for 2 years. I was still running my wallpaper business. I actually still have the wallpaper business now. And that to me was my business. And then I was going to side hustle, for lack of better terms, this Amazon business for 2 years, and then hopefully sell it. So yeah, that was kind of my thought going into it. And it's not that I wasn't passionate about the product. I'm very passionate about marketing. So I was excited to market a higher dollar product, but I knew that this product was not something that I wanted to do the rest of my life. And I try to tell anybody who's interested in selling on Amazon, the product you pick is not the rest of your life. It doesn't define you. Like that baby strap I tried doesn't define my Amazon journey. The business I sold doesn't. I sell now in women's health products.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious, that one product that you had, Was it a single SKU or ASIN, or was it did it have a parent-child variation?
There were three total, three variations. Um, one of them just had so many issues and returns that I just kind of like stopped making that. So it was really two variations of one product that were about 80% of the sales. And then I had through that year, I added in, I think like 8 or 9 ASINs, just standalone ASINs under my brand. And honestly, one of the mistakes where we haven't dug into mistakes yet, but a mistake is I neglected those other products that I added in.
Yeah, that can happen. That can happen. And I'm really curious because I've had this happen where I've had a really successful business and everything's going great. And all of a sudden, people are asking to purchase it. Now, this wasn't on Amazon, by the way, but now you get distracted with, oh, I get the offer. Now I got to get into due diligence. Now it's taking me off my business. And it's over for me at that point, it was over about a 6-month period. And you're working with this company, and actually that deal for me fell through. So I was off my company for 6 months doing this. Now, did you find that when you were going forward and looking at this exit, that it took you off your game?
It does. It definitely shakes things up. It's almost like dating. Like all of a sudden I had this.
I was always rejected. So
Oh, Norm. Well, you're doing great. I know your wife and your kids, so they're great. Yeah, it was kind of like you have this asset that people want or claim to want, and then they're very excited. You open up, you show them your financials, let them see everything, and then either they go silent or they give you back a very funny offer. And offers on consumer product businesses are just strange and a little complicated because it involves inventory and manpower and who's staying on and who's not. And if you get this type of loan, then such and such can't be an officer. Like it kind of started to consume that part to where often when I was talking to a buyer, I was almost talking myself into keeping the business. I was like, wow, like I did all this and like we can launch it into Walmart and it's ready to go to Australia and New Zealand. And I was like, am I crazy? Like, why would I exit this brand right now?
So just before we get into the next sponsor, aggregator, broker, was there a difference for you?
So I did talk to some of the aggregators, and two things on why I didn't go with an aggregator. One, they want to rebuild your company. It takes a long time to kind of, I'm talking long time. It's only a few months, but where I was, this was November, and when people started to take interest, and the hot selling season for the product needed to be ramped up like closer to February. So I was like, yeah, it's probably aggregator right now. And also I was only at like $1.2 million in sales. So I also felt small. I felt little for an aggregator. So brokers are probably like a more of a sweet spot. So yeah, I did talk to brokers, and I also marketed it myself, because when people saw the products on Amazon and there's like the contact page, there were sporting good companies that occasionally would just reach out and say, hey, this might be a product that we could add to our shelves. So I personally would reach out, and also had like a couple a broker. I never like fully signed with a broker, but I had several of them trying to hustle away my business.
Okay, very good. So now we're at the bottom of the hour. This is perfect because we're going to get into some mistakes and hurdles after this. But for anybody who's listening for the first time, we have the Wheel of Kelsey that's coming up. And if you like to register for that, just one sec. This is very important. My wife, well, you know, Connie, she's filling up the coffee cup right now.
Hi, Connie.
Joey's on today.
Hi, Joey.
Yay.
She's waving way off to the side there. There with the coffee. So anyways, if this is the first time, hashtag Wheel of Kelsey or tag 2 people and you'll get a second entry for a really awesome prize today. So Joey, why don't you just tell everybody about the prize today?
Yes. Well, you get a free 45-minute coaching session with me. We can talk about your brand. We can talk about everything you're going through. Or if you're even looking for a product, I can talk to you about ways to find a product to sell. Wherever you are on your selling journey, it's 45 minutes to chat directly with me all about you.
All right. And there's a big value on that. That's about an $800 value. So if you want, and I can tell you, Joey is knowledgeable. So whatever you want to talk about, it would be well worth it. And I already see that Luke is in there first. So again, anybody who wants to register, it's hashtag Wheel of Kelsey, tag 2 people, you get a second entry. And Kelsey, if you are doing your job today, you'll already have your finger on the button for that sponsor. Launching products isn't like it used to be. To successfully launch your product, you need to hit that algorithm from all sides. Driving external sales, boosting social signals, and increasing product listing engagement are fundamental to success. Rebate is the first and only launch platform that delivers across this broad range. Get your product featured on Amazon.live through Rebate's influencer program. With this service, your product gets instant exposure to large audiences of shoppers and permanent placement on Amazon Influencer Storefront, which drives perpetual sales. Run a sweepstakes campaign on Rebate and connect with shoppers off Amazon. And lastly, drive external sales with tried and true deals campaigns. Visit rebate.com today and get started with your 14-day free trial. Oh, and I also just want to remind people that if you do have any questions about exiting a business or something for Joey, let us know. Throw them into the comment section and we'll get to them towards the end of the podcast. All right. I always love talking to people about this next segment. And what I find is I usually call it fail to succeed. And, what obstacles or what things did you have to overcome to really succeed? So why don't we start there? What kind of obstacles or mistakes did you make?
The biggest mistake I made was inventory. Completely mismanaged my inventory.
Okay. Tell me more.
So I launched this product in March and I knew June was coming, and June is Father's Day. And it was in my head, the perfect gift for Father's Day. Every dad should have what I was selling. I optimized my listing and my ads from launch. Like I set up my listings knowing I wanted to always win on Father's Day. And I went really big. It was like the Super Bowl to me. It was like Father's Day. And I knew this in March. This was my plan. And I went crazy with the keywords. And I'm really pleased with my marketing on it. But I ran out of inventory about 6 or 7 days before Father's Day. And with Amazon, that's terrible because I was doing Amazon FBA at the time and there's nothing to ship. Now I'm telling you that I knew I was starting to run out of inventory probably 10 days before Father's Day. And I thought, okay, I'm going to switch some of this to FBM, fulfilled by merchant, which meant I would actually physically be putting the labels on the boxes and shipping them out of this like tiny garage that I was working out of. And I still managed to run out of inventory because it was completely mismanaged. When I ran out of inventory, I had 50 orders for FBM I could not fulfill.
Whoa. 50 orders at that price point too. Wow.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. So that's a lot of money. And you can't just cancel 50 orders on Amazon. Your listing health is going to drop. You're going to be in trouble. Like it's not okay. So yeah, I had this like horrible feeling. I thought I was going to throw up. It was like the world was like crashing down on me. It was like ruined everything. And I wanted to cry. I think I cried a little bit in my car, like a little ugly cry. And then it hit me. It's like, I don't have time to cry. I have to figure out how to fulfill 50 orders that I don't have a single piece of inventory for. And everybody knows Amazon is like super fast shipping. So it's not like I had 2 weeks to solve this problem. I had to figure it out. Yeah, so that was stressful. One thing I learned through that is if you do a partial ship, you still
Yeah.
have the tracking number, and then Amazon sees that you shipped it. And so for some of the customers, I did a partial ship and I sent a note and I said, I'm sorry. And as soon as the inventory comes in. So that was one of my solutions.
That is smart.
Thank you. Thank you. That was like part of the solution. The other was just hustling. All those contacts I had from my design, the other people that I toured and said, "What are you working on?" I called them. I'm like, "What metal do you have? What material do you have? Can you help me put this together?" I went to, Home Depot. I went to everywhere I could think of to put together the product. And then I also sent a note saying, reach out to me. If you're not happy with this product, we'll fix it. Because some people said, hey, this isn't the exact looking product I got from the photo. Although I did run out and take new photos, so to switch the listing as fast as possible. But, sometimes like in your order confirmation, the old photo was in there. But for a lot of people, they went to the listing, was like, oh, okay, wait, yeah, this does look the same. So, I mean, that's kind of like a little scrappy. And I'm not
Yeah.
saying you should do that, but that's what I did.
I've had that happen too. Now this is with soap dishes. So these were a lot less expensive and I ran out completely. And I just went to Etsy and I was looking and I was trying to find somebody that had the same style and just bought them all up just to get me out of the jam because I knew that I was going to take a hit if the inventory didn't come in. So the dishes, because people don't understand perceived value, they were selling at a lot lower cost than what mine were. And so I was able to get them, send them over to Amazon. And I don't know if I broke even or even made a little bit of money, but you got to hustle. Like you can't let your inventory go out of stock. And what you did with just sending that little note was very good because that could get you out of the bind. You might have one or two people that complain, but the majority will say, oh, a small business. Oh, I understand. Yeah, no problem. Now, I just want to know why Jamie would tell you to forecast the way that you did. Why did you listen to him?
I don't think at that point I had really um, told Jamie or anybody in the coaching program that I was just going to go crazy for Father's Day. It was just something I had learned when I was doing the keyword stuff. And I was like, with my marketing background, I'm like, Father's Day is coming up. So I'm going to go big. And oops, I didn't think of like, hey, on the flip side of that, if your whole plan actually works, you're not going to be able to fulfill the orders, Joey.
I'd still like just to blame Jamie. It's just a fun
Me
thing
too.
to
Let's
do.
blame Jamie.
All right, there we go.
Perfect.
So what are some other mistakes or obstacles that you had to overcome?
Yeah, it was very tough to get inventory. So a lesson that I had to learn was when you're buying only from China. So what I was doing is I was buying a big chunk of the product from China, and then I was bringing it to a garage and just doing a very, very small, quick modification to it. It took like 10 minutes to modify. But I was very heavily dependent on that shipment from China. And running out of inventory, having a bad supply and demand year of 2021 taught me that you really need to diversify suppliers. And it's not just have a backup supplier in China. It means that I needed to be able to hustle and figure out a way that I could have it made in Mexico or even better in the US. So I had to find a way to do it in the US. And now when I did it in the US, it cut into that $100 profit.
Yeah.
Right. But I was also inching up my margin so that I had a lot more room for error because I now was looking at it like, okay, it's going to cost me anything from $50 to $80 now to make my product, depending if I have to buy it in China, which is ideal, or if I have to hustle and buy it in the US. And I was trying to also buy from Mexico. which never completely worked out, but I was trying to do that. So that was a lesson learned was you better have a backup supplier. And you can do that in China too. You can have multiple suppliers, but
Sure. Yep.
that's like a big takeaway.
I'm curious because it came from China to the US. Were you able to increase the price at all to help overcome that because now you can say it was made in the USA?
So I put on my box final assemble in Austin, Texas. Because the product, the part that comes from China or some of the rules and regulations still has to have the made in China on it to get it out of China. So that rule was covered. So there was some part that said made in China, but I was marketing consistently final assembled in Austin, Texas, or I would say ships from Austin, Texas. So yeah, I was really trying to push that US stateside. Um, Now, when I had them made in the US, it wasn't super consistent. There was only a batch of like, 300 at a time that would come from the US. So I wasn't comfortable redoing the box and having this US
Uh,
box versus like my boxes from China.
you want to hear a horror story?
Of course, always, please.
I so you're just talking about assembly, right? So I used to make one of my first businesses was making grandfather clocks and mantle clocks for Bulova. And anyways, the grandfather clocks, all the wooden and the shell components were done, but the uh, the clock itself, the chimes, the lead, everything came in from Germany. So I got a call from customs one day. And what I would do is every one of these would be custom made. So I take each hammer, I'd fine tune them. The chimes would be separate. Anyways, they told me, and I did this like 1,000 times, no problem. Well, one customs agent said each product, each piece has to have made in Germany on it. And I had to go down to customs and I had to take a sticker and I had to put on every single piece, like whether it was a gear, whether it was a hammer, whether it was a chime, the outside. So even the shells, it had a top, a bottom, two screws, the outer shell, and the lead, which is two pieces. Had to label everything. So it looked like it just looked like you had probably 50 or 60 labels on it. You couldn't sell the clock.
Right.
So it was absolutely ridiculous, but there was just some person overreaching their stupidity level and just saying, "Oh, you have to do this. This is the law." It came in as an like it always had, and although the technical, it came in a box, but I had to open up the box. I had to take it out. I had to show these different hammers. I had to show the different screws. I had to label everything.
That's crazy. Yeah,
Yeah.
I would not want that, especially because then it makes the design of the product look ridiculous.
Well, yeah, I mean, you couldn't. Okay, so read between the lines.
Yeah, yeah, I know, I got it. I wouldn't have done it either, but
No, I had to do it. I had to go down in 90-degree heat in this warehouse and do it. But the clocks, when people purchase them, yeah, that's where you read between the lines.
yeah,
But
yeah.
anyway, so lots of fun. Okay, so we talked about some mistakes that we want to avoid, and let's talk about something a little bit different now. Now, we talked about the challenges, great, but what's some advice that you can give to our sellers that are just starting out at developing a brand?
I think anybody who is developing the brand needs to know that you're gonna run into problems and you have to push through them because that's when you know that you're making progress, when you're creating more problems for yourself. And the best way to handle problems is to tie into a community of people that can support and help you.
Mm,
That is going to help your business grow a lot smoother and faster if you can talk to people who have done it before and can really help you. And the support that I had when I was first getting started of being able to just even voice that I ran out of inventory and hear other people be like, yeah, you're not the first person to do it, but you probably shouldn't do it again, which by the way, I did 5 more times. So, but it is kind of it can be a lonely, stressful journey when you're doing it all by yourself. And especially if you're just starting out, you are at the opportunity point to set your listing up properly and perfectly, especially if you are thinking about exiting. Because if you don't set your listing up and start properly from the beginning, when you go to sell, you're going to leave money on the table because you're going to need lawyers to redo things. There's just things that might have to be fixed that, hey, if somebody had just given me a quick heads up when I was setting this up, can cost you in the end. Because when there's no money, right? Like when I was making $0 on my product, there wasn't a lot to stress about. Now, when I was getting to $600,000, $800,000 in sales, there's a lot more to stress about because there's a lot of money sitting there.
Yeah. And I guess one of the questions I forgot to ask you is, 2023, what are you doing now? What are you looking at moving forward with your brands?
Yes, the trends in 2023 are, I think it's a lot more fun to sell now with brands than when I was trying in 2020 because there's a lot more information, there's a lot more community, there's this cool stuff coming out with AI that I try to plug in. And I think in Amazon, things move so quickly and they shift and change that you really do need to stay on top of what's happening. So, for instance, just Amazon allowing sellers with brand registry to have Amazon Inspire, which is, kind of like TikTok for Amazon sellers. Like there's a lot more opportunities for marketing that Amazon is rewarding sellers with, which I think is super cool. So for my new brands, I want to take advantage of everything that Amazon is giving to sellers. And then I want to have a little bit of a leg up on the competition by using tools and resources that are now available. So whether it's a research tool or maybe an AI tool that I can get really good at. So yeah, I'm just utilizing everything available in the space and seeing what is right or wrong for my current brands.
I am going nuts with AI. Nuts. I feel like I'm a kid back in kindergarten, and I'm getting too old for kindergarten. But but just I've taken 3 courses. The one I'm in right now is an ongoing course. It is unbelievable what I'm learning. And then just, talking in groups with everybody and just, wow, look at what this just came out with. Look at this video thing. Look at this image. Like other than Midjourney, there's so many little things. Look at these Chrome extensions. But the problem I'm finding right now, the biggest problem I'm having, I feel like when I first got started with Amazon, it's like squirrel, it's shiny syndrome, shiny object syndrome. And I've got to be really careful that I'm not taking, and there's so many people that have really bad information about ChatGPT and, just doing it wrong, or they just have bad APIs and they'll make you pay $4.97, $9.97, $19.97 for something that's just worthless. So you got to be careful out there too. There's just a lot of crap out there.
There is. Yeah, there's also a lot of crap. And also, if you're just starting out with a brand, you really do want to keep it simple. You don't want to jump into, hey, I'm going to do and get distracted, as you said, like with all the shiny objects. And that's kind of how I did build from 0 to 1 million. I kept it very simple. I went with what was working. And now that I have a lot more experience as a seller, I think that's why I'm so excited, because I can play around with stuff and see how it fits specifically into my current brands, because it's not a one size fits all. Like it has to be customized, and it's your own business and it's my own business. So I get to look at the information and make a decision if that's best for what my brand is.
So important what you just said. Back in the day, just old school marketing, guess what? It works. If you take a look at that listing and it doesn't make sense, if you're doing your proper keyword research, if you just go back to the basics, and you can really just clear all of these tools out, not all, but the majority, and just go back. Why would you buy the product? Well, it's got beautiful pictures. It gives me the information that I want. I can read it. So all these things can fall into place. However, it's not bad having a couple of tools to assist you, but a lot of people get overloaded with tools thinking that it's going to do the trick for them when they don't understand the concept or the theory behind it.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. And it's true. And my brand with the women's health stuff is a very personal brand. So it needs to really come from somebody who's gone through like some of the struggles I went through. I wrote a book on infertility, and that's kind of what spiraled me to start this new brand. And so doing automated posts, even for like Facebook groups or any groups, like I don't schedule posts or anything. Everything has to be very over the top authentic, because that's what's needed for my
Yeah.
brand to
Yeah.
connect.
Well, we have a ton of questions. I think we should get into that. And by the way, before we get into the questions, I want to shout out, because I've listened to your podcast, but why don't we give a shout out to your podcast?
Thank you so much. The Fearless Sellers, the Women of Amazon podcast. And it is not just about women, but it is celebrating the success of women sellers. And yes, men are on it too. Norm is going to be on it in just a couple months. And it's really celebrating the entire Amazon selling space.
Very good. So if you get a chance, listen to the podcast. It is very good, very informative.
Thank you.
All right. So yes, we do have a bunch of questions. The first one, we asked our audience what trends they're seeing. And I think Spencer has a good comment here. He's saying people are conscious about what they're buying and they hate Amazon, but love the convenience. So if the product does some good, like donating a portion of the proceeds to a cause, it can really attract some quality customers. So thank you for the comment, Spencer. And let me see. Let's go to...
Can I add on that?
Yeah, for sure.
I think people want to buy products with a cause. Yes, they're buying brands, but they want to know that it's not all about the brand making buck. People don't mind a brand making a buck as long as the perceived value is there. If you got quality packaging, if the brand deserves the buck, and I think that's the difference. If you get something and it's crappy, then you're going to feel like you just got some discount product. But to add even higher perceived value, what I'm finding these days is people really want to see that there's a community or some sort of social consciousness behind a brand. And so usually what we're trying to do, and you've got to be careful with this, you can't make it look like this is just another promotion or marketing tool for you. When we do it, we try not to even brand this, but we'll promote a cause. So with our soap, we give to charities or we give to organizations that promote fresh water in third world countries. And, people like that. They like seeing what they're doing and providing this information. And we even give an option for people to donate themselves. Like, here's a link, boom, add another $5, add another $25. And that's going through a company that I use called Shopping Gives, and they take care of all compliance and everything. I think it's really important nowadays to do something like that.
I agree. On one of that comment made me think of this. One of the products I sell is actually hand carved in the Ukraine. And I put on my listing, just so people know that, it's a hand carved from a family in the Ukraine. And I've gotten a lot of really positive feedback because the suppliers in the Ukraine, and I have wanted to make that a little bit bigger and see how I could give back to the charity. But just even knowing, like, when those products sell, that means I get to buy more products from this woman in the Ukraine. And people are like, well, why don't you just source it out of China? I'm like, because I get to support these people who are making these products for me out of the Ukraine right now, and they need our support.
Yeah. And I'll spend too much time on this, but Afalabi and I, do you know Afalabi?
Yeah, he was on the cruise.
Yeah. He was on the cruise. So Afalabi and I have the soap company together. But one of the things that he suggested was there's Black African soap, and it's a very special soap. It's made throughout Africa or Nigeria, and he contacted a village there, and their specialty was manufacturing Black African soap. So with that soap, liquid or the bar, we can provide resources or funds back to that village, which is I thought was
Wow.
really cool.
That is an awesome connection. Yes. Okay. Yes. I'll buy your soap.
All right, very good. I'll send you the link.
All right. We have an interesting question from Claudia here. You mentioned that you're a designer, Joey. You've read Brand Gap by Marty Neumeier because he goes in depth about branding and design. Do you think Amazon sellers should educate themselves about branding and design, or is it not worth the effort for Amazon?
I love that you're asking this. I think in 2023 trends is branding and design matters. Yes, everybody wants an authentic brand and they want to be drawn into the brand with the same design and branding rules that have always been read. And yes, I have read the book, The Brand Gap. I haven't read it in a while, but I do know that book and I recommend it. And branding and design comes into play. And honestly, with so many not similar, but just products that come up, the branding and design is what sets your listing apart. It's your storefront and you want it to be absolutely beautiful so that people want to shop with you and they want to learn and know more about you. And especially take advantage of all the A+ content and everything you can in the brand registry. So yes, Claudia, you are on the road to success. I love it.
Okay, and I know you mentioned marketing a couple times throughout this. So from Rad, he's asking, did you sell through PPC or social media or both, or were there any other marketing strategies that you implemented?
The orchestra I was talking about with marketing is yes, the PPC, making sure that you're digging in, knowing your keywords, and being brand registered helps with that too, because you get to dig a little bit deeper. So running your PPC, paying attention to keywords through the brand registry. And then off of Amazon, it's Google ads, Facebook ads a little bit, but it was more that I worked hard to build a Facebook group and I had Instagram and a little bit of YouTube going. And then influencers do help. I didn't have a huge budget for influencers, so I was very careful with the influencers I picked, and I had maybe like 5 or 6 influencers to help
I'll
me.
do it for free.
Thanks, Norm. Yes. All right. I'll buy your soap. Okay.
All right.
All right. From Chuck, when would you say Father's Day sales season begins? My product is a Father's Day gift for sure.
Awesome. So I think people just think grads and dads, right? So when graduation season is like the end of May going into June, that is right after graduation. So like end of May, I would say that's when Father's Day stuff is, but you want to ramp up for it. So when I was talking about your listing, like your back end search terms, you want to have it optimized for Father's Day. In your listing, in your bullet points, put like perfect gift for Father's Day. Like get that in there now so that organically you can rank, and then you're running ads like Google ads and maybe some Facebook, which is also Instagram, for Father's Day. And then that's where you see like the perfect of situation where everything comes together because it's linked back to your keywords on your listing. Hope that answered it.
All right. From Spencer, any recommendations on sourcing from the US? Is there an Alibaba for the US?
There's not an Alibaba for the US, but that's a great idea. Let's start that platform. So for sourcing in the US, I spoke to a couple companies. One that's coming to mind is Gemba. They were helping. And then sourcing agents can find people in the US, but I was really kind of jumping around to contacts I had near Austin, Texas to be like, hey, can you make this for me? And really digging into like, let's say it's a cream, right? Like I have a progesterone cream I want to sell. Well, I definitely want to make that in the US. So I am talking to people who are selling creams now and trying to figure out who their manufacturers are. And sometimes I look on the back of bottles and they'll be like, manufactured here, and like I look up the address and I call them, and it's like research, digging in to try to find the US suppliers. I don't know, Norm, do you have a better way to find great
Yeah,
US
there was
suppliers?
a few things. First of all, chamber. So American Chamber of Commerce.
Yes,
You can
that's a
go
good
into
one.
directories. You can go to organizations themselves, trade shows. So if you check out like just different trade shows, let's say like right now, Pet Expo is going on, and that's huge. One of the things you can do with that is you can try to, if you're not going to it, you can extract. If you're usually you can extract a directory list, from something like that. But the government actually has a list of manufacturers. And I haven't had to do this because I usually find I got Affalabi, so that's what he does for me. But but anyways, there was and I'm sure it's a database now, but there is a list of manufacturers that you could source by niche. And I forget what it was called, but it was part of the government. So I will try to find that. But you're right. There's no Alibaba that's just out there. It takes a little bit more digging. But also, Dr. Google, is perfect, especially if you know search operators. If you can go in there and just go file type : and then whatever you're looking for and extract like a PDF or Excel S file or Excel. Yeah, XLS files. You can extract it. You could use something like Browse AI and go to the site and extract names. Very, very. Those are the types of things that you can use right now. Hopefully that helps. Oh,
Okay.
Browse. Yeah, Claudia Thomas. That's not really. It is like you can use that. But that's just more of a database. It doesn't. You can go ahead and use Thomas as a starting point. I do that, just like Google.
Okay. Now, Chuck, I think this would be good for a topic in the future, maybe focus in on this. But Chuck says, can you talk about Amazon Inspire and how to utilize it? Or maybe what are your thoughts about it? Just open.
Yeah. So Amazon Inspire is new. It came out a few months ago, and it's a separate app. So, and it's really Amazon's way to let Amazon sellers who are in the brand registry program promote their products with video, and it's kind of similar to TikTok. And you want to make engaging content. I'm calling it TikTok because you want the content on there to be like with the hook and exciting and fun, just like TikTok is. And so it's different than Amazon Posts, if you're familiar with that. So I kind of think of it as like maybe Amazon Posts was more like Facebook, and now Amazon Inspire is like TikTok, where it gets to be fun and fast and cool. And yeah, so hopefully that explains it. But the best way to learn is to download the app and see if you can get onto Amazon Inspire and start using it.
Did you know Walmart has their social media platform now? Just came out.
Oh, it did? What's it called? I got to look that up.
Kels, what was it? You use a hashtag. It's we'll post it in the
Yeah.
we'll let you know. But it just came out. We just talked about it yesterday. But anyways, yeah, if you want to post using your product or somebody else using your product, and also for those of you who don't know about this, but Amazon has got their live program starting. It's in beta. You can just go to a wait list, and if you want to become your own brand's ambassador, go ahead, or you can do the same thing as you can on Amazon, and that's hire influencers.
Great tip.
Okay, and our last question from Luke. Can you put the extra donation option on Amazon?
Yes. Oh, no. This is with Shopping Gives. And we had a podcast with ladies from Shopping Gives. This is used for Shopify or WordPress. So you can go ahead and there's different levels too. So it could just be straight. It could be multiple charities. So let's say that there's multiple organizations that provide clean water that you want to support. And then you have the extra options. So it could be 5, 25, 50, and then other. They click on it. It goes directly to their website, and the donor can go ahead and do it. And everything is tracked. All compliance is met. And when you say that you're actually giving 5%, this tracks it so you don't get into trouble, at the end with records.
Very cool.
And Kelsey, is that it?
That's it.
So this is the last call for hashtag Wheel of Kelsey. If you're new to this is the giveaway that's coming up in 2 seconds after the next sponsor. But hashtag Wheel of Kelsey, tag 2 people. We've got an awesome giveaway. If you've been listening to the podcast and you've been hearing Joey's story, she's awesome. She does coaching and she's got her own podcast, but she's giving away 45-minute session with you where you can talk about pretty much anything about your listing or brand. And it's got about an $800 value. So hashtag Wheel of Kelsey, and we'll get to it. If Kelsey does his job properly and presses the button, we are going to get to that next. I want to give a quick shout out to an incredible group of sponsors to help keep this podcast running. The Lunch with Norm podcast would not be possible without the support of the following sponsors: Post Purchase Pro, Clear Ads, Jeff Schick Law, Rebate.com, Honu Worldwide, Digital Blacksmiths, Netfluence, Extreme Power, and Startup Club. Now back to the show. And I guarantee if by Monday, we should have our newest sponsor, VAA, on there. So just to make sure that they get some love, VAA Philippines, and we'll have them with a shout out next week. Okay, so let's go to the last sponsor. Or sorry,
The wheel.
Let's go to the wheel. I think it's just getting late in the game. So, all right. So let's go to the wheel.
It's time for the Wheel of Kelsey.
All right.
Okay. All right. So thank you everyone who entered today's Wheel of Kelsey. I'm going to shuffle up these names. We do this every single podcast, so make sure you come back next time to enter again. If you are the winner, please email me, kate@lunchwithnorm.com. And it looks like Marsha is the winner.
How fun.
Congratulations.
Marsha is a very special seller. So, and she's probably going to turn red when I say this, but she's had over $1 billion in sales.
Awesome. Congrats.
Yeah, she's the inventor of sidewalk chalk and
That's an
the
awesome
Power
product.
Ranger license for North America and the gel wrist wrap or wrist thing. So she is a powerhouse, and now she's got something called Stay Well Copper, and it's an incredible brand. So, yeah, the two of you will hit it off, and she is another powerhouse. So anyway, she might even be a great guest for your podcast.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was like,
Yeah.
hey, I can't wait to meet you and collaborate. Awesome.
So congrats, Marsha. And I think that's it. Oh my gosh, Joey, it's been fantastic.
This has been so fun. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, you're very, very welcome. So are we going to be on the next online sellers cruise?
Yeah, everybody book. We're all going to cruise together. I think it's like
January.
January.
It's, by the way, I know we kind of joke around, but it's an awesome event, the online sellers cruise. And I think next week or so, Kevin's event's going to be coming up. So now, like for promotion. So that's the BDSS, and he only takes 100 people, and he always sells out. So we'll be talking about that a little bit later on. But anyways, it's really been a pleasure to have you on. It was fantastic. And I hope everybody learned a little or had a lot of inspiration and education from Joey's journey. So thanks a lot, Joey.
Thank you.
Want more great information? don't forget to subscribe by clicking here. Also, if you want to check out our latest podcasts, click over here.
Lunch with